can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back, giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, how are you, my friend? Happy Friday.
Same to you, Jimmy. Good to talk to you. Great day today. I hope you look fantastic. I know you've had a long day today, but
Yes,
way to
thank
go.
you. I appreciate it.
Way to go.
It's something, I guess, what they say, you can dress up good and put an act on. Who knows? But
No. You're doing great. It's all about
Awesome.
positive energy, my man.
A lot of
Positive
hockey last night, Pierre. I mean, where do we start? Some great
Toronto,
games.
Ottawa. Start in Toronto, Ottawa.
That's what I was thinking. Let's go there. The Maple Leafs finally end that elimination game curse and win 4-2 in Ottawa. The big boys showed up for the Toronto Maple Leafs too, but also the guy that ends up getting the winning goal, Pierre, Max Pacioretty. Who would have thought, let's say, I don't know, 10 years ago, that Max Pacioretty would get a series clinching goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs? How things have changed for the former Montreal Canadiens captain.
Well, think about where he's been. He's been to Vegas. He's been to Carolina. He's been to Washington. Now he's in Toronto.
Yeah.
He's been in a lot of places in a short period of time.
Yep.
No Max a long time. The last injury he had was pretty bad. The Achilles heel was pretty bad. And
Well, I didn't think he was going to come back, to be honest.
most
Pierre.
people didn't, Jimmy.
Yeah,
to be
pretty
fair,
impressive.
most people didn't. So good for him. I love what he said after the game. I had the support of my family and my friends.
Yeah.
And that matters when you're going through something like that. It
Oh, yeah.
matters a lot. So I was happy for Max. Who I think stole the show but never got enough credit for it? Craig Berube.
Mm-hmm.
I wish somebody would have asked when David Perron scored to tie the game at 2 off the back of Anthony Stolar's ear and back
Yeah.
from a bad angle. I wish somebody, and I don't know if they did or didn't, but I don't think they did. I wish somebody would have asked, what was the mood like on the bench? And if it was negative, who calmed it down? And if
Yep.
it was positive, who created the positive energy?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm willing to bet that was a Berube special.
Yeah. It was interesting, Pierre, not after this past game, but after game 5, I was kind of thinking, like, man, it seemed all year that he had, like, you could tell the effect of Berube was there and that they were really buying in. And I wasn't getting that vibe a little at times during this series. I'm like, where is that? What happened to that? Is it them just getting too excited, getting too ahead of themselves? Who knows? But you're right. There was something different about last night because there are a couple moments, the one you listed there, and just some other ones when, maybe they had to kill off a penalty, but there were moments throughout the game like, oh boy, here it goes. Where they could have said, oh boy, our luck's changing. It's going to go the other way now. And they didn't freeze. They kept pushing. And that's the difference when you have a guy like Berube behind the bench.
That and the roster flexibility that his general manager provided for him.
Yes.
You can play Max Domi at any one of the 3 forward positions. Last night, he was really good as a number 3 center. He was really good. Max Domi made a big difference in that game. You can move Pontus Holmberg from a 4th-line player to a 2nd-line player, either as a center or a wing. He's a good penalty killer. So there's another example of roster flexibility. And how about Matthew Nyes?
Oh,
How about how good he is?
unreal.
Like Matthew Nye is a really good player. He's a special player. But Jimmy, I want to give credit where credit's due because people don't get to listen to our phone calls. You said something today that was so appropriate, and I was like, I can't wait to tell everybody. Mitchell Marner really should be considered for the Selke Trophy. He's the best defensive forward in the league. Trust me, I know he's not Bob Gainey. I grew up watching Bob Gainey, so I get it. The award was created for Bob Gainey, so I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Watch the penalty kill sequences last night when Mitchell Marner's on the ice. And you tell me that he's not one of the best penalty killing forwards in the league?
I don't get it, Pierre. It's like the mainstream media and the mainstream fan seem to only think offense when you say the name Mitch Marner. Like it's just he's typecasted so bad. And then you factor in the fact that, we're not supposed to give it to a wing, which I think is ridiculous. You give it to the best defensive forward there is.
Hold on, who said, can I just stop you right there? For the people that are saying that, do you know why the award was created? It's for Bob Gainey, who's a winger.
Yeah.
He was a winger.
Yeah.
Like,
And yet
what do we do?
and Pierre, but for our listeners out
I
there,
thought Brad Marchand for years got shortchanged. He should have been in the discussion all the time.
Agree. There's been some other guys as well, but the last winger to get it was 0203, Yuri Lettinen. Stars. So we've gone over 20 years since a winger got it. Are you telling me in the span of 20-something years that there hasn't been a winger that deserved it? Come on.
Marchand for sure. I can tell you that. Marchand for sure. And I can go around, like, if I looked at it and really broke down rosters over the years, I could come up with a lot of names. So here's one for you too. Jacob Slavin, and I said this for years, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody better nominate him for the Lady Byng, the most gentlemanly player in the league. So he's won the award and he's been nominated. And I take nothing against this year's nominees. I'm happy for all the nominees. They're all just nominations. You mean to tell me that all of a sudden Jacob Slavin is the flavor of the month because of what he did at the Four Nations, and he was spectacular there. But that's how he's been playing for probably the last 7 years in the league.
All of a sudden, people just notice him.
And all of a sudden, you just noticed him? And now he can't be nominated for the Lady Byng?
No.
Why not?
It's unreal.
Like, what are you doing?
Yep. And so people know a lot of the awards finalists are coming down now in the last few days. And the Selke, as Pierre references, so it was Sasha Barkov, Anthony Cirelli, and Sam Reinhart.
All justifiable.
All justifiable. But I would still put Marner in over either Cirelli or Reinhart. I would put Marner in.
You're gonna have a hard time getting me off of Cirelli.
I know.
And I've talked to you about this long before. This kid's really good, Jimmy.
I know.
Like, coaches. So here's the difference. I get fans aren't in love with, because he's not loud enough offensively.
Yeah.
But if you're coaching in the league and your job depends on a stop, you got to stop the other team. Anthony Cirelli plays on your team.
Yeah.
He's not going to stop every single night, but he's going to stop probably 8 out of 10 nights. He's going to stop guys 8 out of 10 nights.
Yep.
I'm just telling you, coach, it's hard to get coaches not to like him. I'm just telling you.
I remember when he was coming into the league, how much you were telling everybody about him, and
I know, and I was getting poop for it. Okay, whatever you say.
But back to that game. So they get it done there, Pierre, and now they will get to play the team that loves to bring you into a street fight, who has maybe an extra day or two rest than you do. This is going to be a war, Pierre, and I was on with my good friends in Portland on the Jab radio there. And I was saying, I'm just worried for whoever comes out of that Leafs-Panthers series that they're going to have nothing left in the conference final.
Yep.
And if they have to play the Capitals, who can beat the hell out of you, as the Canadians found out, they're in big trouble. But you deal with that when you get there, right? You can't control that. You can only control what's in front of you. And so that's what those teams will do. But I do think one of those teams is going to be really beat up by the time they get to the conference final.
What you just said is so spot on.
Mm-hmm.
You're right on. You're right on. So, I don't know how they're going to control Sam Bennett. Talking about Toronto. I don't know, because he's good at what he does.
Yep.
And he needs a contract.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot more too for him.
Oh, yeah.
Marner is really good at what he does, and he needs a contract too.
Mm-hmm.
But they're different.
They're different types of players.
The guys in Florida aren't quaking in their boots because Mitchell Marner is going to take a stick and plant it through their back.
Right. Exactly.
Guys in Toronto and guys from Toronto don't know when Sam Bennett's going to go kaflooey.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a dangerous, useful player.
So let me ask you this, Pierre. You looking at that Toronto roster right now? Who needs to step up and be the agitator?
Domi.
Go there.
Domi.
This is the moment for him. This is a moment.
Can do it. Domi can do it. Max can do it. And I don't mean fighting. Like, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Stabilize. Yep. And here's the biggest thing. If you're running a team meeting in Toronto, because we had to do this in 92 second round Rangers. They had a line with Paul Broughton, Darren Turcotte, and Ty Domi. Okay. That was the line. And then they switched it up, and sometimes Chris King and Ty Domi would go with Darren Turcotte.
Okay.
They had a lot of instigators and Joey Koser. They had a lot of guys that started a lot of trouble, and they were good. The Rangers were really good.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to tell our guys, once the whistle blows, just don't even get involved and don't worry about it. Like, we'll take notes and we'll keep the receipts. And next year, when we have to, if they start taking liberties, we'll take care of it next year.
Yeah,
promise. But we're not doing it this year.
Yeah.
And so we were fortunate. Mario had his hand broken in game 2. People forget that. Adam Graves splashed Mario on the hand, broke his hand. And Mario didn't play until game 3 or 4 of the Boston series.
Yep.
So people forget that. Our guys behave themselves. And so Craig Berube is going to have to get his guys to be on their very best behavior.
Randy's saying, what about Chris Tanev?
He's a defenseman. You can't.
Yeah, you need a forward.
You need a forward to do it because you can't lose Tanev. Tanev's one of your top penalty killers. He and McCabe are your top shutdown guys. It's a great question, but I'm just telling you my philosophy. It's got to be a forward that does it. If they start luring your defensemen into it, especially your matchup guys, that's a problem. Florida wants that. That's what Florida wants. They want your D off the ice.
Yeah. Yeah. Pierre, let's go out to the next game on the docket there, time-wise, was Minnesota and Vegas in Game 6. Vegas clinches with a 3-2 win. I want to tell you something that and this is no knock on him. I think I'm saying this because I think he's a great goalie.
Yep.
To me, Aiden Hill hadn't had a moment yet in this playoff.
Right.
Last night was his moment.
He had a couple moments last night.
Last night was, you know what? We know they're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at us, and I need to be ready. And I thought he stole the show. I thought there were some moments where he killed momentum by himself with some really good saves and was a huge difference in that game. And I look at that now. If he can build on that, they're going to be really tough to beat going forward. They really are. And it's going to be a great news, but
we agree.
Edmonton Oilers. But that was the big game for him. Like, he hadn't really reached his level yet. Now he's there. And when a goalie's in that zone, you're in trouble. But Let me ask you a question on that. How easy do you think it'll be for Edmonton to get to the net against those big trees on defense for Vegas? Not as easy.
It's going to be a way different series than what they just experienced. Yep. I don't want to start any trouble, but I'm going to say it the way it was.
Yep.
LA won the first 2 games at home. I thought they would. I thought they would win 4 games at home and lose in Edmonton. I did. Yep. I told Jimmy that on the air and off the air.
You thought this was going to be a home series. I remember.
I thought it was going to be a total home series. What happened to them in game 3, LA, the series was over. The series was over.
No adjustments, Pierre.
No, the series was over.
I know that you have friends on that staff, and I'm just telling it like I saw it there.
Yep.
There's some big things to discuss in those exit meetings.
They're going to have big discussions. I guarantee you they are. And usually the discussion goes from president to GM to the coaches. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to start ownership to president to manager to coaches.
Yeah. And Pierre, I was saying again when I was on the radio earlier today, I said that series and the Colorado Dallas, you look at it, right? Like, for some of the play, LA did control the flow, right? Mm-hmm. They had these pockets where they were really controlling it, but Edmonton was so patient, and they knew that what was going on with their lineup and how a lot of these guys were getting worn down. It was almost like they were told to say, hey, just wait. They're going to get tired. In every game, it was the same thing over and over. You could see LA wear down, and Edmonton was waiting there to pounce, and they did it every single game. And that's why they're moving forward. And I've kind of seen a little of that in the Dallas, Colorado, but not to that extent. But, there's been, I think overall, Colorado has controlled the flow more than Dallas. But Dallas has taken advantage of their opportunities, and that's why we're headed to a Game 7 there. But LA, like, you got to be looking at it being like, that was our chance to finally get over the hump. That was our chance.
I'm going to ask one question. Who's the starting goalie the last 4 games for Edmonton?
I know.
Calvin Pickard.
Even more proof of what we're saying.
Calvin Pickard.
Unreal.
Not Stuart Skinner.
Nope.
Calvin Pickard. How about that guy? What a great story. How could you not be happy for him?
Yep. I know.
Go look at all the stops he's made in his career. Originally, he was a second-round pick of Colorado. Go look at all the places he's played.
And
What a courageous guy. What an amazing story. I hope one of the networks does an up close and personal on him. It's a great story.
They should.
Like, it's unbelievable. What a great story.
Yep. I agree. And by the way, not as great a story, but I was happy to see Trent Frederick finally find his game again. Looking like the Trent Frederick we saw years ago in Boston. You know,
what was his nickname in Boston? Was his nickname Freddie in Boston? It was? Okay. Yeah. Because I see them calling him Freddie. I'm curious what his nickname was in Boston.
Yeah.
I just call him Trent. I never call him Freddie, but he's a tough kid, boy. He's a tough kid.
It was funny too because I totally forgot. I'm not saying this just because he scored, but I did have it in my notes and I forgot to look at it and say it. But I had a feeling he was going to come through. He was like one of these guys that's been due forever, right? We've been waiting for him to finally find his health, and he's been steadily improving. That was his best game I've seen him play since, I'd say.
I'm just happy for him. Every time I did a game in Boston, he was always a class kid. He'd always come by and say hello. He's tough as nails, Jimmy. Yep. Tough as nails, that kid.
Not always the way, though, Pierre. The tough guys are always the nicest. It's so weird. Most of
them, I would say 99.9% of them. Some of them, they have issues and they just can't. But most of them are really good.
And he's so insightful too. I mean, if the mic's off and you're just talking hockey,
he's smart. He's a smart hockey guy. Like he gets it,
and he follows it too. Like he knows players. He scouts guys for sure.
Yeah. So you better get to the super scout we have coming on. You better get to him.
He scouted a lot of players and made them his clients, and one of them played his last game last night. An amazing career for Marc-Andre Fleury, and on to join the eye test on the Sick Podcast Network right now is his agent, Allan Walsh.
How are you guys? Nice to see
Allan,
you.
How are you? Good to see you.
Man. I just saw Allan. What a class guy, by the way, Jimmy. He was at Ray Shiro's Celebration of Life. Yeah. Allan, you have no idea what that meant to the family, to the friends, to everybody that's close to the Shiro family. That was so classy of you to come. Really classy, Allan.
Did we lose him?
Yeah, we'll get him back.
We'll get him back. But yeah, that was amazing that he went there, Pierre, and he's going to have some great stories. By the way, too.
What about Yarrow Halak?
We're going to ask
his guys too. Yep. He told me at the reception that Yarrow's living in Boston, and his kids his young boys playing youth hockey in Boston.
Yeah. They love it.
I thought that was great. I thought that was great. I thought it was good.
I remember him saying that, and I got to talk to Allan a couple weeks ago when that series was starting between Montreal and Washington to reminisce about that. And he was talking about, I think I mentioned it to you off air, Pierre, when they had that run going on, they had the stop signs. Yeah, it said Halak instead of Arat. Aret.
The only place in the world where it doesn't say stop, it says Aret, means stop in French. So when they put Halak. It was good.
Good stuff there. So, yeah, obviously Marc-Andre Fleury's career ends. And here's Allan
Walsh.
There he is. Right now. There he is.
I'll get back to you. Big boy, that was so classy what you did. Just so you know how much it was appreciated. Nobody ever tells you when you do good stuff. They only tell you when you do bad stuff. I'm telling you, you did a great thing. That was awesome.
Well, you know what? Thank you very much for saying that, Pierre. I loved Ray and had a long friendship with him over many, many years, and his loss, his passing, came as a huge shock to me. I was personally devastated, and I just felt that it was the right thing to do to be there. It was a wonderful celebration of life with a lot of great memories of Ray from the people who loved him. I think it was very comforting for his family to hear all those stories and to feel all the love. And we're all going to miss him.
Yep. Yeah, it really was. Well, Allan, I get this question. I want to ask you right off the bat about your longtime client, Marc-Andre Fleury, whose career ended last night. If you were to put together a montage of his career, now I know you're a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. What would the song be by Bruce Springsteen for his montage?
Oh boy!
Oh, it would probably be Glory Days.
Okay, I was going to go Born to Run, but I like that one too.
Yeah, it would probably be Glory Days. It'd be a great, a great, background music to show all of the highlight reel saves and all of the great moments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
and
your
of course
favorite-
his time in Vegas probably refer to it as at least the end. Maybe darkness on the edge of town or something like that.
Nice one.
So, Jimmy, I got to touch on that one because Alan brought it up. I was in Edmonton. Marc-Andre was still there. The management team in Edmonton decided to go in a different direction. And I was talking to Alan. I said, I just want you to know, not only is your client an amazing person, the way he's handled this, and I think you remember this conversation, the way he's handled this, because we were in the bubble, was so classy, Alan. It was unbelievable. Like he had every right to be angry, upset, and really ticked off at them. He carried himself at another level. He really did.
Yeah, and in every player's career, even elite players, there are times when things may not be working out the way you expected them to be. But I think that all players expect just one thing: be honest with them, right? Everybody here, we're all big boys. We can all accept bad news. We don't have to like it. We don't have to agree with it, but you respect it.
Yes.
Right? Look at somebody and say, here's the way it is. You may not like it, but here's the way it is. No one has an issue with that. Marc-Andre would never have an issue with that. But I think when that expectation, that minimal level of expectation isn't there, that's disheartening and disappointing, especially when you give your heart and soul to a team and to a city for a number of years.
Jimmy, before you get going, I want to get this on a positive thing because we're celebrating greatness. Marc-Andre's greatness. He is.
That's right.
I have my favorite save, Alan, is 2009 Detroit Game 7 against Nick Lidstrom. I had the honor of calling that game. Is there one save besides that one that you can say that's a vintage Marc-Andre that I got to remember for the rest of my life?
Probably the glove save with Vegas, the outstretched arm glove save. One of the most spectacular saves I've ever seen in my life, which ultimately ended the coaching career of Mike Babcock.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
that
good
was
one.
the last game. That was the last game that Babs was coaching the Maple Leafs, and was fired right after that. But that save has been immortalized from his time in Vegas, almost as iconic as Pierre, as you bring up, the Nicholas Lidstrom save in the dying seconds of Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals, Joe Louis Arena. That may go down as one of the most impactful saves in NHL history.
It was really spectacular. It really was, Jimmy. The theater was amazing.
Oh.
Alan knows that old building in
I
Detroit.
remember that.
20,000 people are on you.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. The power, the energy, it was really awesome.
Alan,
and how often, Pierre and Jimmy, do you get Game 7?
I know.
Stanley Cup
Down
Finals.
to the last second, right?
Last 2 seconds,
It's
right?
true.
And we've all done that playing street hockey as
Right.
kids.
Yeah.
It hardly ever happens in reality. Yeah.
Here it was.
Yeah.
He's right.
Alan, obviously, as his career went on, and we have more, documentaries or behind the glass, or we're allowed into the locker room to see what players are like. The public started to realize what a fun guy Marc-Andre was, and the pranks he would play, and just the loving relationships he had with his teammates. If you can think back to when you first started to represent him, is there a moment, or is there a prank he played on you, or a moment where you realized this guy's hilarious? Like, I don't know if it's
I can't wait to hear this.
A couple of things stand out. Marc-Andre Fleury was being interviewed once, and he was asked, geez, you've been working with Allan since you were 15. It's been a lot of years you guys have been together. What was your first impressions of Allan Walsh as a 15-year-old Marc-Andre Fleury? And Flower thought about it for a second. He goes, my first thoughts were, for a guy that was born and raised in Montreal. His French sucks.
That's perfect.
Oh, c'est pas possible, mon ami. C'est pas possible de tout.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
And then,
Oh, that's good.
Just this year, David Jiricek was traded to the Minnesota Wild, and he was injured and out of the lineup. And Flower had stayed late on the ice practicing, and I was calling David after practice, and David was in the shower, and Flower looked over at David's phone and saw that I was calling. So Flower answered the phone, and I had a 5-minute conversation with David until I finally figured out from the ridiculous answers I was getting that I was being pranked by Flower.
That's awesome.
That's so good. So here's my first on Marc-Andre Fleury meeting, Halifax World Junior 2003. I saw him stand on one leg and jump over a high hurdle and land on one leg. Then the guys challenged him to do it backwards, and he did it with the other leg up and over the high hurdle. So that's freak athleticism. You know that. I know that. Jimmy knows that. Is there one thing that you remember about him that was freakish athletically?
Well, I remember in the summer months several years ago, going to the gym. I was meeting Flower for lunch, and I went to the gym and I was watching some of his workout, and he was always doing unusual, newfangled training drills. So he was jumping on a mini trampoline on one leg with these infrared glasses on, with two people throwing tennis balls at him pretty quick. And as he was jumping up and down, catching them with both hands, with these glasses on. And I was like, I had never seen anything like it at the time.
Wow.
And he comes off the trampoline after the drill, smiles at me and goes, "Pretty cool."
Jimmy, that's how the kid really is. Like, Alan, that was a perfect description. I'll never forget that day, the hallway at the arena, the Metroplex in Halifax, watching him do this. Alan, like NFL players can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, it was freakish. It was unbelievable to watch him do this.
Combine, eh? Yeah.
And he was just smiling at the guys, and he was going, it's okay. I do this in Cape Breton all the time. I'm like, oh, Christ, here we go.
Flower appears in when you see him in clothes, street clothes, slightly built. Like, he doesn't look like he's jacked.
Right.
But if you ever see him, and there's some photos of him in dressing rooms where he doesn't have a shirt on, I mean, he is absolutely ripped.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's like, geez, Flower, get something to eat here. You got no fat on you.
No, you're right. He's right.
Yeah.
He's right. Yeah. He's lean and mean. He's right.
Alan, we had Billy Guerin on, I don't know, about a month ago. And we were talking about the influence Flowers had on the team there, and the reason for bringing him in, so he could obviously still a great goalie, but also be a mentor there. How much pride and how much did he enjoy taking on that role with the Wild at the end of his career here?
Yeah, I think Flower just really embraced it from the very beginning. He talked to me many times about he wanted to show the younger guys how to approach the game with love and joy. If you just see the clip that has been playing this week of the last game Flower played when he came in the third period of game 5 and the OT, there's a he was mic'd up for the purpose, sitting on the bench.
I heard about this,
and watching him, support the guys on the bench and his reaction to watching the game and his conversations with Gus, TV timeouts and such. And there was no expectation he was going in the net.
Right.
But now he's in the net, and it just so happened to be the last NHL hockey he'll ever play, and he's mic'd up. And you hear the whooping and the hollering and the laughing, and he puts his glove in a guy's face and he goes, "Oh, sorry." It was typical Flower.
That's awesome.
And I wish we had more of that.
Yeah.
Because I heard stories from guys who've played with him and against him for years and years and years about, everybody in the D zone can hear him make a save and go, "Woo!"
Oh, I heard it many times. I heard it. I was doing the game in Washington. He's in Vegas, and Ovechkin's in Washington, and they had a collision at the red line right in front of me. And Marc-Andre went right after him. It was a carryover from the Pittsburgh, Washington stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I don't know if Ovechkin knows how tough Fleury is. I don't know if he knows. Like, it's to Allan's point. Like, Marc-Andre, you see him, he looks lean.
Yeah.
But if you get him without his stuff on, like, he's a big, jacked up guy. You're right about that. I agree with that. Allan, one of the things I've always admired about you, and I told you the other day at Ray's celebration, your constituents are in good hands because of how loyal you are. You're amazingly loyal to your constituents. How hard was it to negotiate Fleury's contracts? Was it hard?
It's hard to put it into the context of easy or hard. There were so many.
Right.
A lot of people don't remember, but after Marc-Andre was drafted number 1 overall, Pittsburgh at the time had severe financial issues.
Oh, yeah.
And it was before the team was sold, and they were operating on a shoestring budget. And again, this is before the salary cap era, and at a time when entry-level contracts, especially for a number 1 overall pick, can combine to a max of $11 million over 3 years, which doesn't even exist right now.
No chance, not anymore.
And there was some number 1 overall picks like Joe Thornton, which sort of set the standard for subsequent number 1 overall picks. Well, Pittsburgh didn't want to sign him, and they didn't want to sign him because they didn't have the money to sign him. So Craig Patrick, who was the GM at the time in Pittsburgh, said, "We'll let Marc-Andre come to camp, and we're only going to sign him if he makes the team."
Wow. And
Eddie Olczyk was the head coach.
He was.
And at the very end of training camp, everybody at the team hotel for camp had either been sent down to the minors or moved to the hotel across the street from Mellon Arena.
Yeah, the Marriott.
What was that? Right. And Flower's in this hotel all by himself.
Jeez.
And they're not really giving him any information as to what's going on. And I then got a call from Craig Patrick, and he said, "Listen, if you guys are looking for what other number 1 overall picks have received, we can't and we won't do it. So we're going to offer Marc-Andre a contract today. I'm going to send it to you in a little bit, but I want to let you know it's going to be slightly below what the other number 1 overall picks have received." Well, I get this contract spitting out of a fax machine. This is before email.
Well, that's how it used to be, Jimmy, just so you know. They used to have the time codes at
I've
the
heard
top.
the stories.
So this is how it used to be.
And this contract wasn't slightly below what number 1 overall picks had received. It was, I couldn't even describe how low it was. And they expected Marc-Andre to sign this. And he ended up, on our advice, leaving Pittsburgh, came back to Montreal, where I was at the time. And I called Craig Patrick back and I said, Marc-Andre Fleury is. I can introduce you to my.
I know one thing. Marc-Andre wasn't a dog. I know that.
That was my pony. Sorry about that. So I told Craig Patrick that either Marc-Andre Fleury is going to have a new contract and get back on a plane to Pittsburgh because they've said he made the team, or he's going to be on a plane back to Cape Breton to play junior hockey, and then because he's a late birthday, become an unrestricted free agent.
Wow.
Yep.
And we did 3 days of intense negotiating with a very angry general manager before getting the deal done 15 minutes before the return to junior deadline.
Wow.
And Flower then got on a plane and flew to Pittsburgh and spent better part of half a year with the Penguins as an 18-year-old.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Then he went to Helsinki. The World Junior was in Helsinki, Jimmy, and the Penguins let him go there. And they got to the gold medal game, and it was just a freak. It was one of those. Mark went to go clear the puck out. Alan, I think you might have been there. Were you there?
I was there. Braden Coburn.
He hit Braden Coburn, and they gave credit to Patrick O'Sullivan, who was the American player closest to Braden Coburn.
Was this the 04 one? 04.
Yeah,
Flower was clearing the puck,
yep.
And it went off of Coburn's skate and into his own net.
Yep, correct. And that was a deciding goal in the goal. First time the Americans ever won the gold medal at the World Junior was that year.
Right.
Wow. Good stuff. Well, listen, Alan, we appreciate you taking the time. Great stuff. I'm sure we could sit here.
You're unbelievable.
I know you're a busy man.
I could talk to you for hours. It's so good.
I was there when he was drafted in Nashville. I'll never forget. He was so nice. Didn't know much English then, but he was just, you could tell this guy's a good guy. You could just get that from him. And I'm so glad to talk to you about the career he's had, and congratulations on being part of that.
Thanks. Well, my French sucked back then, apparently. But but the thing that was interesting about that day is, if you recall, there was a pretty dramatic morning trade of the number 1 overall pick.
That's right.
That brought it to Pittsburgh from Florida, and it was only at that time did we get the information that Marc-Andre Fleury was going to go number 1 overall.
Wow.
About an hour and a half, 2 hours before the draft.
There's only one player left playing from that draft now that Marc-Andre stepped aside. It's Ryan Suter.
He's playing tonight. I don't know if I'm lost in there, Pierre, but yeah, it is Ryan Suter. I just saw that somebody.
Ryan Suter's the only guy left. That draft was amazing. By the way, Allan Walsh was amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to just take
great. Those are great stories. Those are amazing stories. But I had such a great talk with him at Ray's thing. He was so good at that. Like he said, I got to come. Like Ray treated me so well. I had to be at this. He flew from LA to Boston.
That's amazing. And you were telling me, and people don't realize that means a lot to the grieving family.
To the family and to the. Well, he talked about the people that spoke. I mean, there were a lot of tears at that thing.
Yeah. He was great. That was so fun to listen to there. And I told you too, and I was going to bring Pierre at that. So I'm in that scrum with him after he's drafted number 1 overall, which I've always found crazy. They didn't do that one at the podium, but anyhow, it was a big scrum, and you're trying to get through the Montreal media and the French media. You know what it's like. And me and this little guy, right? But I'm like, that's the because I can't see, so I'm like screwed. So I weaseled my way in right up to the front, and I got the second question. I said, Marc-Andre, what's going through your head right now? And he says, well, a few weeks ago, I'm a boy on the farm in Quebec, and now I'm going to the NHL. He just like that. Like, what? And he didn't know much English, but he got that out, and it was perfect for the moment. So congratulations to Marc-Andre Fleury for an amazing career there. He'll sure to be in the Hall of Fame. And
what a cast of characters they had in Pittsburgh.
Fleury, I think Alan said it right. The game needs more of him. We need more.
Fleury, though, think about it. Fleury, Crosby, Malkin, Letang. Go look at all the characters. Ronnie Hainsey was there. Hal
Colby
Gill was
Armstrong
there.
at times.
Colby Armstrong. Like now, Colby wasn't part of the Cup winning teams, but
No.
go look at all the cast of
He was
characters.
part of the
that were-
building.
Yeah, they're all. That's what I'm saying. Like the cast of characters are Brian Dumoulin. Like you go and look at it. Billy Guerin. Like they had amazing guys that were. It was just an amazing group of guys. Jordan Stahl.
Yep.
Like Ray. You know, I want to give credit where credit's due. You look at the job that Ray, who inherited from Craig Patrick, that Ray did with his group
to get them
to
to
build
29.
that thing. It gave them about 9 years of amazing success, like amazing success.
It really is. And the thing about Marc-Andre Fleury too, Pierre, that you always notice is, so he's there in Pittsburgh for so long, right? And he's become such a legend there. But then every stop after that, even Chicago, I know Blackhawks fans that still love him and still talk about him. He was hardly there. He's like a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Everywhere he goes, he leaves his imprint. And that's something to be said about, you know, when you look back on your life, if you're able to say that, like, I went to so many different places and I left an imprint and I always made people smile. You lived a good life.
Oh, he definitely made people smile. I'll never forget the Vegas Golden Knights asked me to host their expansion draft party. And obviously Marc-Andre was the face of the franchise when they drafted him out of Pittsburgh. He wasn't protected by Jimmy Rutherford and that group. And I'll never forget, I had to interview Marc-Andre. It was so cool. He was so into it.
Yeah.
He was so excited to be there. It was really neat to see. It was really neat.
Yeah. And I love, you know, like when we said, and I brought it up to him there, you know, you remember what Billy said too, how much, you know, he was able to come in and do exactly what Billy envisioned.
Oh yeah.
You know, you Pierre, teams do this a lot. You'll bring in older guys at the end of their career to be a mentor for the young guys. You know, you've been a coach, you've been in a game broadcast. It doesn't always work.
Nope.
It doesn't. Sometimes it's just
you got to get the right guy. That's why my last stop, I wanted Jonathan Taves in the worst way. I'm just telling you.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even imagine where Ottawa would be right now if they would have had the opportunity to have had Jonathan Taves there.
We don't script this stuff, Pierre, but we are on the same wavelength. And I was going to ask this question to you earlier today, but as you said, I had a kind of a crazy day. I was thinking last night as I lay awake, unable to sleep. Hockey goes through my mind all the time. Would he be a fit for a young Montreal Canadiens team on a 1-year deal next year?
Johnny Taves, 100%. 100%.
I got a feeling he's going to Winnipeg, but
the one thing I don't know, because I haven't talked to Johnny in a little while, but if his health is good, I guarantee you he'll still have game.
Oh yeah.
And it's not so much the game for him. He's like when we had Brian Trottier, it's like that.
He's
going to teach guys, here's how you win. Follow me. I'll teach you how to win. This is how you got to carry yourself. That's what you got to do. So, yeah.
Just like Rex in Boston, 2011.
Rex was amazing. Rexy was – so you think about that now. You had Rexy, pretty good leader. Big Z, pretty good leader. Patrice, pretty good leader.
Yep.
Like, you were redundant at the leadership position.
And then you bring in a guy like Sean Thornton.
But then that's what I mean. So if anybody acted up, the coach didn't have to do anything. Those guys took care of it.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah. It's good stuff. All right, let's get over to our spot. Well, quickly too, Pierre, just for the game tonight, I think we both feel like it's going 7, right? You like the Blues tonight?
This is a 7-game series. Yep.
Me too. So I'm liking St. Louis tonight.
It looks like Nikolai Ehlers is coming in though.
It does look like that, which will help them because they need all the help they can get up front with no Scheifele. So we're going to get to that game in 1 second. But before we do, I want to tell you about our sponsor, TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. And, of course, Betway, where you can still go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. That's right. Free money if you lose, if you're a new customer. only available for new customers. So go to that QR code right in front of you to sign up for an account if you don't have one already, or go to the details section on the website to create your account and redeem the welcome offer. It is not available in Ontario. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 plus and always bet responsibly. Let's go to the sick pick of the night.
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by Betway.
All right, as I said, I'm liking the Blues in this, and I'm going to go with them on the puck line. -1.5 at great value right now, plus 230. So that's one of my bets. And then I've got another bet for you to do, a prop. Give me Jordan Kyrou for 5+ shots. You can get that at plus 475 value. I think he has a huge game tonight. Jordan Kyrou, 5+ shots at plus 475. And like Pierre said, and he is listed here actually in the prop section, Pierre. So it's looking like he's going to play. Nikolai Ehlers is in there right now too. So keep that in mind if you're thinking of some action on this game. Let's get to the Q&A. All right, Franco, can you explain Landeskog's ability to come back and have the level of impact and time on ice he's had? It seems supernatural. Also, could this have led to the departure of Rantanen? Financial, because maybe they knew this was going to happen. I think the last part there, they might have had an idea, but they didn't know for sure. He's tried this a million times. You didn't know.
Yeah, no, they wanted to move away from Mikko Rantanen. They wanted to make the roster younger. They wanted to make it quicker. So that's why they were doing that with Rantanen. In terms of Gabe was training hard. Like Gabe was training hard, and he had setbacks in his training.
Oh, yeah.
I think where he knew that he was going to be able to do it is when he went to the American Hockey League and spent that weekend up in Fort Collins in Colorado. I think that helped him a lot, and that gave him the confidence to keep going. Is it supernatural? Yeah, it is, but that's why Gabe was a top pick. You know, he did something that was really unique back in the day when he left Sweden as a 16-year-old to go play in Kitchener. Not a lot of Swedes were playing major junior hockey back then. So, like, he's kind of a trailblazer to begin with. He's a real courageous kid.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, what would you give to get for Isaac Howard? Yeah, in case anyone hasn't heard,
I don't know this one.
announced they will not sign him, so he will become a free agent in August.
Jimmy, this is a weird one, man. I'm telling you, I don't get it. I don't get it.
What happened behind the scenes there to make that go south?
Well, we know, like you and I know what happened with Cutter Gauthier, okay? We know. So this is kind of a Cutter Gauthier thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this one was way more overt.
Mm-hmm.
Like right from the beginning, you can go check the tape of when he got drafted. I said, this is a bad fit. I said it on the air.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know if this is going to work there. And it's not working.
Yeah.
It's really a weird, I don't know. I don't get that whole thing.
Well, there'll be teams that will be interested in signing him.
I think what'll happen is they'll trade him. It'll be at a reduced rate, but they'll trade him to a team where they'll ask the agent, where's he want to go? And they'll trade him and they'll get something. That's what'll happen.
Did you see Detroit being interested because of the Michigan ties?
I could see that.
Of them there? Yeah.
I could see that. I could see Chicago being interested.
Yep.
You know, I could see maybe Minnesota being interested. I mean, I don't think there'll be a lot of teams, but I think there'll be over 10.
Mm-hmm.
10 will be interested.
What else do we got? What's next? Bert L. Jimmy and Pierre. What's up, Bert? How did you find your place niche that differentiates you from other media members? Did it come about naturally, as in the case of Pierre being a living hockey almanac? Pierre,
this is for you, not for me.
I just, to make a long story short, I always wanted to be in hockey media when I was in college. And the aforementioned, we mentioned Greg Cronin a lot. I grew up with him. He was my neighbor. He was working with the Islanders at the time, gave me a shot down there to work in an internship with their PR department under Chris Botta, who's been on this show. Chris was my boss, helped me a lot there. I was only there for one season, and then I got a break to come home and do some coverage of the Bruins. And away I went. But then I also, in I'd say 2006, as a result of covering PJ Stock when he was with the Bruins, I became close friends with him. We stayed in touch. So when he left hockey and ended up on what was then Team 990 in Montreal, had his own show in the midday show. I think it was called like the Stock Exchange. He used to have me on. Yep. And then Mitch Melnick started to have me on. So then I established sort of a imprint in Montreal as well. And it's been great being able to be on both sides of that rivalry all these years.
Yep. Great job.
So
You've earned everything you got.
Thank you. What was your first break in media? When you got out, was it when you started play-by-play?
I was coaching, and I got a call from Ted Blackman at CJD, and he says, the ratings aren't good on our radio broadcast of the Montreal Canadiens. And we saved tape from when you were coaching in the league, and we think you'd be really good at doing this. Would you be interested in doing like a simulated game? So I was coaching in Baton Rouge at the time. I said, yeah, sure. I'll be up in Canada in like late June, early July, to see my parents. Yeah, I'll do it. So I went and did it. And right afterwards, they offered me the job.
Awesome.
I think it was a 20 or 30-minute simulated game. And he offered me the job, and he says, how much you making now? And I told him, he goes, you won't be making that much doing this. I said, but then I said, I'm interested in it. And he said, but what I do think I can tell you, within 3 years, you'll be on national TV.
Right.
And I said, really? He goes, no, I think so.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Is that how you met Mitch Melnick?
No, I knew Mitch before.
Oh, okay.
Mitch met me when I was working for Pittsburgh.
Okay.
He sat next to me in the press box one night in Montreal at the Old Forum.
Wow.
And he was watching me do breakdowns, and he started asking me questions like, who the frig is this guy? Like, leave me alone. I'm working. And I was fascinated because he was asking actually really good questions. And at the end of it, we just exchanged numbers and became really good friends.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's how it started. I was scouting a game. I think it was Boston, Montreal.
That's kind of like me and Art.
I'm pretty sure it was Boston, Montreal.
Yep. That's like Stevens and me. I used to do the same thing to him. All right, let's go to the next question. Mike, Pierre, who's in charge of writing down the lineups on the score sheet? Oh, yeah, that was interesting. Would someone be on the hot seat if one didn't notice the wrong Nylander in the lineup last night?
So, Mike, this is what usually happens. The assistant coach with the best penmanship will write the lineup on the lineup card. Now, I don't know if it's changed because of computers. Maybe they type it in, but it used to be written. So then after that assistant would write that, another assistant would look at it and just make sure all the names were correct. Then we did this. I don't know if every team did it, but we had our trainers look at it just to make sure that in case somebody was sick or injured. So that would be the third piece of insurance. Then an assistant would look at it again, another assistant. Wow. Then it would go to the head coach for his signature. So we had like 4 different fail safes in case somebody caught something. So that's usually how it works. Not everybody's as intense, but that was Scotty Bowman's orders, and that's how we did it. Mm-hmm. Last night, I think the league helped them, and they're allowed to. It's Rule 5.1.
Okay.
They're allowed to do that as long as it's before the game. I think you got the wrong name on there. Wow. And they did, because Alex has been called up because Marley's have been knocked out.
Right.
But it was Willie that should have been there, but somebody put Alex. So they caught him. But somebody, if that ever would have been a penalty to start the game, somebody would have been in trouble.
Oh yeah. And then look at the game Willie had.
Somebody could have been in trouble for that.
Somebody's getting razzed right now. All right, next question. Hockey puck. Pierre, if you put in Gordon's shoes as Habs GM, if you're putting Gorton's shoes as Habs GM, who would you go for as a second center during the summer?
So I wouldn't say that. I'm not going to say a player's name because I don't think it's appropriate. But what I'm going to say is the characteristics of the player. He's got to have good speed. He's got to be over 6'1", and he's got to be able to make plays. I'm not worried about the defensive aspect of it because I think I can build a line that would be responsible defensively, but I need a guy that can get the puck to Demidov. I'll figure out the other winger. I'll figure that. I need to get a guy that can get the puck to Demidov and also be respected enough around the league so that you just can't match up all your guys on Caulfield, Safkowski, and Suzuki.
Which they've been doing.
So those are the characteristics of the player. I think there are people out there Canadians could trade for that are like that. I do. And I think there's some good ones, but they got to decide what the price point is they want to pay.
Right. Well, they have the arsenal in terms of prospects.
That's what I mean. They got more than enough to do it.
All right. Next question. Chris L. Question for Pierre. Do you think LA is open for business? And is there a world where Philip Deneau could be a stopgap 2C for the Habs near term?
Yeah, I think Phil's an elite 3.
Yeah.
But Phil comes at a high price for an elite 3.
He's very valued in LA right now.
And I don't think they're There are other guys I think that will leave LA before Phil Deneau does, but that's a great eye. Phil Deneau is a really good player. Really good player.
Next question. John Smith, can either of you explain to me why there aren't more head coaches that had careers as goalies? I can think of Cheevers.
Eddie Johnston. Don't forget Eddie Johnston, John. Eddie Johnston was a goalie.
Here, somebody else.
I'll tell you right now. Jeff Blashill.
Jeff Blashill, that's right.
But he didn't play in pro hockey, but he played Division I. He was a good goalie. Jeff Blashill's another one. Patrick Roy is another one.
What's his name? Scott Gordon.
Scott Gordon. Flash
Yep.
Gordon. He's been one.
Well, why is it that you don't think we see it as much? Just because of the perspective?
Because they don't know what forwards and defensemen do.
Yeah, they're just in their
no
own zone.
clue. That's why everybody says,
that's
I laugh. And I mean no disrespect to anybody that's a goalie working on the air, because I worked with one that was really good, John Davidson. Mm-hmm. He really knew the game. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just telling you, this is not a knock at anybody. But I keep hearing all the goalies are the best because they keep everything in front of them. They don't know what a defenseman does reading a 3-on-2. They have no idea what a forward does on a faceoff. They're clueless when it comes to running a cycle. They have no idea.
Or running a bench.
Any of these things.
What about running a bench, Pierre?
Well, that's what I mean. They're never on the bench unless they're the backup.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
This whole thing was propagated by people at Hockey Night in Canada. I'm telling you, it was. Yeah. I used to hear this all. Oh, goalies are the best. You got to have goalies. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever you say.
All right. Next question. Dave Abbott, Jimmy and Pierre, in having exit interviews with Doc and Lane, what would your message and feedback be for them?
You want me to take that?
Yeah, you go, Pierre.
Well, with Kirby, we need a lot more from you. You know, you had a run there, and when we went on the road trip around the holidays where you were really good, but you need to bottle that, man. We need you to be like that next year, and if you're not, then I don't know if this is a good fit for you. And that's the kind of discussion you got to have. Mm-hmm. In terms of Patrick Laine, body language matters a lot. You got to be way more consistent 5-on-5. We need your conditioning levels to be better. And you got to come in here with an invigorated attitude. Not everybody's as direct, but that's what I think you need to do. Yeah. I've done that before in a lot of different situations, and it's better. You heard Allan Walsh said it. Guys just want honesty.
Lay it on the line. Yep.
Just lay it out there. They'll appreciate you more than if you say, you know what, you were pretty good here and you're pretty good there. And then they come in the next year and you're ramrodding them because they're out of shape or they're not playing the way you want them to. And they're like, you told me I was okay last year. Yeah. Just lay it out there. Just be straight with the guy. You don't have to make it a character. Like, you don't assassinate the guy, but you tell him, like, straight up. You need to be better.
With you on that. 100%. All right, next question. Max R. Should playoff performance be factored into award voting? I know Kucherov had a great regular season, but are you really an MVP-worthy player if you can't do it when it matters?
No, because what happens, Max, if a guy gets knocked out in the first round, or what happens if a guy goes all the way to the end? Like, I remember Forsberg had some amazing years and some unbelievable playoffs. He didn't win major awards, but if you had calculated it's extra runway to, you know what I mean? It's not fair to the guys. So I'm not sure. I think individual awards should just be about the 82 games that they play. Soon to be 84, by the way, Jimmy. Soon to be 84.
All right. Next question.
84.
What do we got? Choke. Hi, all. Question. Would Morgan Geekie be a good fit for Ivan Demidov, and could the Habs sign him? Bonus for a Habs fan. It might put a wrench in the works of the Bruins rebuild.
Yeah, I think he would, but I don't see that. I think Sweeney's already gone on record, Jimmy, saying they're getting Morgan Geekie signed.
Yeah, I think
so. I don't see that.
USA, I would say 100% go for it, but he's an RFA, so.
Yeah, so I don't see that. I think, like I said, Donnie's already said that they're going to sign him.
It would be funny though, seeing them offer sheet a guy in the Bruins.
Not sure that's a good idea.
We'll see. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, at what point is the NHL going to hold these networks accountable for what they are doing? How can a broadcast skip? Ethan, I love you for saying this, and I forgot I would have said it to Allan too. How can they skip over that handshake line last night with Fleury, I think is what he's referring to? Makes me feel grateful for what NBC gave us. I was stunned that they didn't stay there. That was just, or say, hey, you know what? We're pitching it over to our sister network here if you want to see Fleury get honored there at the end of the game. That should have been available for the public to see. Hands down, I agree with you. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Ethan. All right, next question. Vincent Noel. Hey, gentlemen. Pierre, can you think of a player whose language barrier prevented them from being what they could have been in the NHL? That's a good question.
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
Sandis Olszewicz ended up being a really good player. But at the beginning, I think language was a bit of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Evgeny Malkin, he learned how to speak English at Sergei Gonchar's house from Sergei Gonchar's daughter, who was in high school at the time, and she would watch television with him and teach him. So that examples of two guys that ended up being really good, but they had to learn the language. I can't think of anybody where I could say, oh yeah, 100%. He didn't turn out as good because of language. I think eventually you learn. Like I can tell you, when I played a year of pro hockey in Europe, I would always watch television with subtitles, and they still had them. They had English subtitles, and I eventually could learn. I spoke French, but I eventually learned, the German language, and the Dutch language, just because I was right there on the border between the two countries and could learn. I learned a lot. I still remember a lot of the words. So yeah, I think you can do it. You just got to want to do it. That's the one thing. My mom taught me this a long time ago. When you're in someone else's country, show them the respect of trying to speak their language. And I always remember my mom was an amazing traveler. She still is, 89. Figure that out. She's crazy.
Yeah. God bless her.
Yeah, I know she's unbelievable. But I always remembered when my mom taught me that. And I always tried to, whether I go to Sweden, Finland, Russia, try to always please and thank you, and just rudimentary words, but they matter when you go.
Oh, the sign of respect.
Places. Yep. Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, next question. Gabriel Lamb, with Greg Popovich stepping aside from coaching the Spurs, will we ever see an NHL coach stay at one place for a long time, or those days gone? I feel like GMs don't get held accountable enough.
Gabriel, you're beautiful, man.
Quiet.
Gabriel, we're on your team, man. We're totally on your team. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think the accountability stuff for managers is coming.
I know. Speaking of longevity, Breezewalk confirmed Cooper will be back. So
okay. Oh, I'm not. Just make sure that you keep me under control here. Does anybody apologize for some of the stuff that they were writing as insiders about Utah?
I know.
I'll apologize now and tell you right now, I got Edmonton, LA wrong. Okay? I thought LA was going to win, but they were going to win 4 games. I thought it'd be a 7-game series. I thought they'd win all 4 games at home. I didn't think they'd win any in Edmonton. And I told Jimmy that before the series started. I got it wrong. I admit it. Got it wrong.
Yep.
But that stuff with Cooper coming out the way it did before they played a deciding game 5, because it was a deciding game 5, that was so BS and unprofessional. Okay, Jimmy, I'm going to calm down now.
I was just letting you go. But I'm with you. It is. It's wrong. There was nothing substantiated with that. And you and I were both looking and making calls.
We were calling each other. And we're like,
I haven't heard anything. Like, where is this coming from? It was weird. All right, next question. Chris Blue Shirts. Hey, guys, now that Sully has been officially announced as head coach, are the current assistants at risk? Thanks. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your families.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, you too, Chris. That usually happens, Chris. They're going to want to bring in their own guys.
I got to think, if he's really doing his due diligence, Sullivan, and he's a smart guy. Mike's a smart guy. Mm-hmm. He'll give Michael Pekka a long look.
I think so too.
Michael Pekka should get a long look.
Yep.
I don't think Dan Muse will be there. I could be wrong. I know they're
Massachusetts. Is any legs to the torch rumor?
I don't know about that one. That'd be too weird, because Sully worked for Torch in New York. He was the assistant.
I know.
That would be weird. I can't see Torch being an assistant at the NHL level. I could see internationally John being an assistant, but I think it's kind of different. I think John needs to run his own bench, in an NHL environment.
Yep.
But again, I know Phil Housley's already been not replaced, but asked to leave with Peter Laviolette. Feel bad for both those guys. And I don't know, Dan Muse is kind of attached at the hip with Laviolette and Housley from their Nashville days.
That's right.
So I feel bad for him too. I think Pekka gets a long look, but I don't know if he stays. I just don't know.
All right. Next question. FFFF. Hello, Pierre. Will you be involved in this year's World Hockey Championships in any official way?
No, I wish I was. Nobody's called to ask. A couple of years ago, I had cursory calls with a couple of people involved with different federations to do some work for them at the tournament. But it was a bad time for me because things had gone south in Ottawa. And I just didn't feel like I was in a position to do it. I didn't think it was responsible of me to do that at the time. So I didn't do it.
Next question. Franco, what is the general urgency among many teams to sign RFA first-year players like Lane Hudson? What do you see as potential harm in waiting for the sophomore season?
Well, if the sophomore season goes gigantic, Frank, it's going to cost a lot of money because the comparable is going to be substantial. So that's number one. Number two, we had Allan Walsh on here, and he's unbelievable. I think a lot of this hype has been created behind the scenes, back channel. And I don't blame the agents. They have a responsibility to build up the portfolio of their client.
Yep.
And I think the agents are running a lot of this, which is part of the game. It's part of the deal. You got it
within the rules.
It's totally within the rules. So it's all part of this. I think I've said this. Lane Hudson's a comparable to Jake Sanderson.
Yep.
Except that, Jake got signed 2 years ago to this extension. So whatever Jake gets, then you got to add because that's where the expansion of the money goes.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised. It's 8 years, probably 9 million or more.
So like 72 million, maybe somewhere around there.
What'd Chikrin get?
I forget. 60.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
Hey.
Chikrin got 8 years. And I think it's close to like $80-something million.
Yeah. Oh no, 72.
72. So it's
8
close.
years, 72. Yep.
I knew he got the max for a year.
Yep.
So I mean, see, it's all comparables. That's all you just do comparables.
Mm-hmm.
Chikrin never had that many assists.
Whatever Hudson gets, he's going to be worth every penny, in my opinion. All right, next question. Bert L. Pierre, what sort of responsibility or pressure do coaches feel when sending enforcers / tough guys to fight another player, give the team a spark, or stand up for a teammate?
A lot of pressure. I felt really bad sometimes, and you didn't tell guys to go fight, but they knew what their job was. The guys that weren't getting a lot of points and they were on there because they were big, strong, and tough. They knew what their responsibility was. You always felt, and you made sure you acknowledged them. I think it's really important. It's a very, very difficult job. Very difficult.
All right. Next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, is there anything NHL clubs look for on whether or not prospects will be willing to sign on their team?
I think that it's like the Isaac Howard thing. I think.
Trying to get at.
Well,
would they have foreseen this ahead of time?
Well, Jimmy, like I said, go watch the tape of the draft. I was like, I'm not sure this is a good fit. I said it that day that when he got drafted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All I know is, and all I can do is use the groups I was involved with.
Yep.
Every group I was ever involved with, the thoroughness of the interview process with players that you were interested in drafting,
that's right,
were amazingly intense.
Yep.
And we didn't ask, like, here's one question some teams ask. Are you a willow or are you an oak? No, I'm telling you, teams ask that question.
Wow.
Now, I didn't ask that, but I know teams ask that question.
Yep.
That doesn't tell you anything about the kid. That's kind of, the kid looks at you like, are you weird? Come on. So one of the best interviews I ever had, and I hope he gets somebody tells him this, was Tyler Wright in Buffalo, New York.
Tyler Wright.
Tyler ended up getting drafted by Edmonton, first round. He was a really good player for Swift Current Broncos. So this would have been 1991, spring of 91. And I told Scotty and Craig and the late Badger Bob was still alive and he was working the draft with us. I said, this guy's probably going to be a captain in the NHL and he's a good player. I don't think he's a star player because we didn't need a star. Right. We had stars. We needed some grunts to come in, and Trotz was getting older, and we were going to lose Randy Gillen in expansion. So, there was a lot of stuff. And I said, this guy can come in and probably play next year. And I think he did. I think he did in Edmonton. But he was probably the best interview I ever had. Just the leadership oozed out of him. It was amazing. It was amazing.
That's got to be great when you're interviewing. All right, next question. Yeah. Dave Abbott. Jimmy and Pierre, how many of the playoff teams in the East do you see struggling to make it or possibly falling out next year? The East, because I got one in the West, but in the East, I don't know.
Well, let's do it. I don't think Toronto will miss next year. Do you?
No.
I don't think.
You think Florida misses?
No. Tampa could.
Tampa could miss.
Tampa could miss. So let's do the other side. Washington's not missing.
No. Carolina's.
I don't think so.
No.
Jersey.
If Jersey's healthy, no.
No, but if they're not healthy, they could miss. They could miss.
Yeah.
I don't think Ottawa's missing next year.
Nope.
And I don't think Montreal's missing next year.
So there might not be that many.
There's going to be a drag race between Buffalo, Detroit, and Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Those three teams are drag racing for probably one or two spots max.
Yep. And notice a team that we don't have in there. And I agree 100%.
Boston Bruins.
They're not in it.
No, what? Didn't I hear the press conference that we're a playoff team?
Not just a deep playoff contending team, Pierre.
Deep playoff contending team. Thank you.
All right, next question. Dave Abbott. Jimmy and Pierre, would a GM, VP, hockey ops ever suggest to a coach about hockey systems? I am thinking the Habs have to make defensive improvements if they are going to make the playoffs and move beyond the first round.
They would, because it's an end of the year discussion, but the coach is responsible for strategies, tactics, and tendencies. But they definitely, I've been in meetings. It's just a question. You don't implement it. You don't say, you better change that. You say, hey, just watching. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? There has to be a give and take. If you get the guy defensive, the coaching staff defensive, it's no good. That's the one thing I really think is great about Montreal is that you can tell they're all singing from the same song.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They are unified. All of them. They're all unified, which is really important when you're going through this.
For sure. All right, next question. Ethan Russell, do you see Robinson and Heiskanen suiting up and playing through injury tomorrow?
I don't know. Ethan, it's a good question.
Great question.
I just don't know the answer. I'm not going to lie to you and hedge and lie. I just don't know. Just going to tell you.
All right, next question. Gabriel Lamb, why teams don't use the ECHL for more player development? Also, did you see the new team in New Mexico?
They do. There's a new team going in.
They're doing way more now.
Yep. Yeah, no, they do. Trust me, they do. And I can speak to it from personal experience because my son is not coming home this summer. No. He left college at the end of his year to go play for Minnesota's farm team in the East Coast League, and he's staying in Iowa City this summer to train, and he'll be working with their strength and conditioning people and their skating coaches and all that. So, teams do. Teams really do, and it's become more prominent than ever. Washington Capitals, their team just got knocked out. They were the number 1 seed. They got knocked out. Mm-hmm. Most of those kids, the top kids, they're going to be in Hershey right now. They're moving from South Carolina to Hershey. Yeah. A lot of teams.
Because, and I think you'd agree with me, Pierre, maybe let's say 20 years ago, that you couldn't really say that about the ECHL, but it's really changed.
20 years ago, we didn't have 32 teams in the league either.
Yeah.
So now there are more opportunities for players, and we're about to have 2 more and maybe 4 more teams.
So that's going to get interesting.
So the answer is, you'll see they're going to be using those. So New Mexico's coming in early, and you see who's running it? The Dallas Stars.
It is okay. I was going to ask. That was going to be my next question.
The Dallas Stars are going to be in charge of that. So you're going to see this. It's going to be more and more.
Who's Vegas's, Pierre?
They were in Savannah, Georgia, and they left.
Okay.
Savannah. I think I could be wrong, but I think they are Lake Tahoe now.
Let's see.
I think
Vegas,
they're Lake Tahoe. Check it out, Jimmy. They were in Savannah. I know that.
You're dead on. The Lake Tahoe Night Monsters.
So they moved from Savannah to Lake Tahoe, yeah.
Yeah.
But they were in Savannah. They were in Savannah.
All right, so much closer to Vegas. All right, that's it for our.
No notes on that one.
I know. Yep, and Gabriel Sard too. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, thanks everyone. We appreciate all your questions. Thanks so much to Allan Walsh for joining us.
Great job, Allan. Great job.
I woke up today. I text Pierre. I said, "Hey, what do you think of Walsh today for Fleury? He loved the idea." I text Allan. He got right back to me. He says, "My pleasure." So that's the type of guy he is, that he just jumped right on like that.
Hey, before we get out of that, finish your Allan Walsh. I want to say something before we go.
Oh, I'm done. That's it. I just want everybody to know that about him.
So, Allan, I want to thank you very much, especially for the conversation we had the other day in Boston. It meant a lot to me. It was a pretty emotional day, and he was really good. Next week, we're going to have Derek Damon on, who for 4 years has been running the Iowa team, Minnesota's farm team in the East Coast League.
Oh,
I didn't know Gabriel was going to ask that question.
There you go.
So we're going to have Derek Damon, who is a star player at the University of Maine and played 13 years of pro hockey. And so he's been running that team in Iowa, and it's the first time they ever made the playoffs was this year. And just to speak about the development process that Gabriel just brought up, I thought it would be an appropriate time now because most of the teams are eliminated in all these leagues. You know, half the teams are already gone. Right. So I think it's a good thing to do, and it'll show people just how hard it is to make it in pro hockey.
Cool. I'll get that up in social as soon as we have it all confirmed, the date and time.
Well, I confirmed it with the coach this morning, and we just have to, if you don't mind, I think we do it on Tuesday.
Okay. That sounds good to me.
Because there's a lot of stuff happening. Most of the second round is going to start Monday, probably.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure. We'll get them Tuesday, and then we'll go right into the NHL stuff. And I also I put a request into Scotty Bowman.
There we go.
So we'll have Coach Damon for sure from Iowa, the Heartlanders, and we will also have William Scott Bowman at some point next week as well.
Up the second round. And Pierre, I want to tell everybody out there about the great work you've been doing with CBS Sports. Go to my Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. At Murphy's Law 74. I tweeted up the link there. That's where you can find all of Pierre's video work he's doing with CBS Sports right now. I love that they're ramping up their hockey coverage there, Pierre. It's pretty cool.
They've been unbelievable. The professionalism of Brianna in particular. Brianna's been amazing to work with. So many good announcers. You know, it's just, and the passion for hockey. Yeah. People don't realize, like, they're situated in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That's where one of their studios is. So all these people are working there, and they're huge Panther fans, and some of them are obviously from the north, so they've got their own allegiances too. And then you got Tampa involved, but they're all gunned up because of Florida, so it's kind of neat.
Good stuff. Yeah. Well, I enjoy watching. Everybody can check that out. Just go to my Twitter handle there, at Murphy's Law 74, and you'll find it there. Thanks to Shane for working the boards up in Montreal, and everyone out there, enjoy the hockey. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you here back on Monday on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.